I used to spend 3 hours picking out sounds, fine-tuning every synth, nitpicking over drums, and now I take 3 minutes. Somehow that's made my tracks so much better. 1 year ago, I started posting on this channel and committed to doing one producer challenge every week. For my challenges, I chose to take vocals from a song I hadn't heard before, put them into Logic, and then try to make a track to go with them with no other context. Now, after a year, I have 52 tracks that have changed the way I think about producing. I started doing this as a creative exercise originally when I was much earlier in my producer journey, as a way to take off some of the pressure of songwriting when I was working on my own. I think a thing that is very common when you first start producing is you make a loop, an 8-bar loop, a 16-bar loop, and then you're sitting there with this cool thing, but you have no idea where to go with it. How do you get into that loop? How do you come out of that loop? What things go with the loop that you just made? So I had this idea to take songs I knew were hits and pull the vocals out, put them into Logic, and try to make a track for them. Since I was filming all my challenges, one thing that I learned really early on was that I needed to be a lot quicker in my decision-making process. One, just to actually get the track finished within one sitting, but also so I didn't have hours and hours of video footage to sort through after I was finished. So when I first started, it used to take me maybe 3-4 hours to do a track, and now I have the process down to getting it done in an hour, maybe an hour and a half. And I'm not saying that faster is always better, but especially for things like these challenges where it's more about getting the idea down than making something perfect, I think that mindset helped me stop overthinking every little thing. Pick a sound, put a melody down, print it to audio, and move on to the next thing. And then if it was something that was really bothering me still, that, after I moved on to another part of the production and still wasn't sitting right, then I could go back and take a few extra minutes to fine tune that thing or record a new part or change the sound to something that I felt fit better. But a lot of times when you just put something down and move on to the next element, you realize how much time you actually waste trying to craft the perfect thing in those early stages of the creative process, instead of just committing and allowing the idea to build naturally. Sometimes you can spend so much time trying to get the sound perfect that it just makes the whole process even more frustrating, and then that can be a real motivation killer when it comes to even finishing the track at all. Especially when you're just starting out with sound design, you want to get everything so perfect, especially if you feel pressure of trying to share your music with the internet or whoever, your friends, your family. So at first you feel like you need to tweak all those little details until it's the perfect thing. And sometimes when you're not able to do that successfully, you start feeling discouraged, and it can put a real damper on that flow state, on your creativity in the moment. And it's natural for that to happen to everyone, no matter where you are in your creative journey. But I think another thing this series has taught me is, even in situations when I have been in those moments where you just start something and feel like it's not sounding good, it's not how you envisioned it in your head, it's not sounding right, you don't think people are going to like it, whatever, all the things that you tell yourself in the moment. Having the series gave me some sort of accountability. I had to get these tracks done. So in those moments, I either had to figure it out or put that thing aside and move on to something else. And then by the time you do that, maybe that new thing you had, a new bass line, another synth, different drums, whatever it is, working on a different section of the song altogether, maybe that inspires you somehow to find something new, or you find a way to actually make that thing work and incorporate it into your song in a way that you didn't think could work originally. So being able to push through in those moments of insecurity or doubt or lack of inspiration really showed me that in those moments when I didn't feel like finishing a track, thinking this is going to be too hard, I can't do this, I have no idea what to do here with this song, with these vocals, just trying to get something done helped build my confidence that I could work with things that were difficult or not so obvious, or I could get past those moments where I felt stuck and like the ideas weren't coming. And by taking a second to pivot to a new idea, pivot to a different instrument, a different sound, those things could help get you back on track. And it's very interesting how quickly your mindset can shift from feeling stuck to all of a sudden having that spark of, oh, maybe I do hear something I like, and maybe this is worth finishing. One of the early episodes I did was with Lord's song. What was that? Oh my god. It was in, some non-standard time signature, I think 5/4. And when you're just listening to vocals, you can't really discern that. And so I tried for so long to figure out the drums in so many different approaches, to trying to fit them on the grid, to just doing them by ear with the vocal, regardless of the tempo I was putting in to the DAW. And I so badly just wanted to close Logic, shut it down, cancel the video that week, and move on to something else. The timing is so weird. I know it's not weird, it's just not what I'm used to. But I think I had a moment where I was just like, no, I need to stick to what I said I was going to do. I had this video planned. I don't have time to start something else. And even though it's not working out, I'm going to make something. So I threw out the drums I was using. I made a track without drums at all. I tried so hard to make the drums work, and it's just not going to. And it's not something I would ever release, but there were elements that a lot of people still resonated with in my version that I was so not expecting, for that to be the case. And it opened up some room for conversation about some of the more complicated elements of the original and their songwriting and production process, and going through that process of just trying to make my own track in that short period of time for that song gave me also a new appreciation for the original when I heard it. I think I had such a different listening experience to it after struggling so much to find something that could work, that when I finally heard the original, I was like, oh, yeah, that makes so much sense. And I then learned something new about 5/4 time signatures that I wouldn't have done had I just been messing around on my own, starting completely from scratch. So there's always something to gain. And even in the end, some challenges I didn't think went well. I think I'm past expecting it to turn out well. So I'm just going to go with it and see what I can get down for the rest of this. But there was still always something when I listened back to them at the end that maybe the final product wasn't perfect, but there was always an element of something that I thought, okay, wait, maybe this thing is interesting, or this could be an idea for something else, or I learned something new, how to work with drums I wasn't used to using, or a style of vocal I wasn't used to producing for. There's always something to take away. I did what I could with that. It's not a track I wouldn't release necessarily, but I feel like there's definitely some cool elements that have some potential to be used in something else in the future maybe. And not everything you make has to be a masterpiece. How do you know when something is perfect? Especially with art, it's so subjective. The things that you might think aren't working, if you take the chance and share them, you never know who might resonate with them and what audience will find you for those things. I know there's definitely been some tracks that I've done in these challenges that I thought, I don't know about this. And those have been some of the ones that have gotten the best response. In starting this channel, I didn't know if anyone would watch these videos or, what would come of it. But that accountability that came with it, where I had to post every Wednesday, I knew I was going to be doing this. I knew how to pick a song. I knew how to get it filmed. I had to edit it. Everything had to be done. It really forced me to finish, and that commitment to the once a week process really helped me push through those moments of struggle. I think a surprising thing that's come out of it is that it's really helped me develop and narrow in and discover my own sound as a producer, which you wouldn't think necessarily when you pull these songs from all these different famous artists. Their vocals are going to influence the things that you do, and maybe you'll try to make something that sounds good for them. But I think in the process of trying to become quicker with decision making, after doing a few, it helped me learn what types of sounds I liked and which ones I gravitated towards and which ones I was picking up all the time and using over and over again, till eventually I could create a folder of go-tos that I knew if I was stuck would at least get me started in the right direction for a sound that I like to make. And it also helped me figure out which artists my sound aligns with the most, something I wasn't totally sure of. I've worked across so many genres as a writer and a producer and an artist that it's hard to know where to place yourself. But when you remove the pressure of having to officially release these tracks and they just become this fun challenge, you have that flexibility and freedom to create whatever you want and not fit within a box, which seems like then maybe you would go and experiment with all different types of sounds, which in some ways I think I did, but it also helped me niche down into a more focused soundscape. I was able to choose synths and choose drums without worrying about what's modern sounding, what's going to be commercially successful, what are the popular things people are using. It was just let me choose the things I like and see what happens. And in doing that, it's definitely helped my own creative process as an artist. It's been a while since I've released a lot of new music, but I think that before I started this channel and this series, I worked as a writer and producer for other artists, which is a lot of fun, but you lose a lot of creative control because you're trying to conform to the artist's vision and you want to make the thing that they want to make. That's part of the process. The song that they're gonna put out has to fit for their identity. And I think in doing that so often, it kind of pulled me away from knowing the kind of music I would make on my own. So I put out an EP in 2024 called Rings of Saturn, but compared to where I am now, after having worked on this series for a year, I can really hear how that was just the beginning of the sound. And I thought I had a grasp on what my sound was then, but these 52 tracks later, I have such a better understanding and such a more accurate sense of that now. I think when I made that EP, it's 5 songs, I was still trying to fit into boxes of what would be commercially successful, what I thought would be commercially competitive. And I like those songs, and there are elements that are me, and I'm proud of where that final product ended up. But after working on all these tracks and not thinking so much about what is, pop music, what's taking off now, what's resonating with audiences on a broad mainstream scale, taking that out of the picture and reimagining all these pop songs through my creative lens with freedom without any concern for if they would be commercially successful or who would listen to them. It actually made me realize how far away I'd gotten from the music I wanted to make when I first learned about electronic music production. At that time, I was so heavily influenced by early Lady Gaga, early Kesha, Robin, which all had that grit, a bit of a raw edge to it, very synth heavy, and that kind of like maximalist pop world that is now come a bit more back into the mainstream, but for a while was not what people were making in modern music. And so being unafraid to try some of those sounds in these new pop songs, how a production in those styles would work has been really fun. And the audience that I've been able to connect with who also likes those same sounds and those same artists has been so much fun and re-inspired me to put that into my own original music. It's made it a lot more fun, a lot less pressure, and now I'm excited to work on my own things. And if you're new to producing, trying to find ways to spark inspiration or develop your skills, try this challenge out, even if you don't post it anywhere. It's a great learning tool to deconstruct songs that you know are successful and try and put them back together in whatever way you want. It's made such a difference in the way I approach sessions, the way I approach my own creative process, my own artist project. So don't be afraid to try it out. And if you feel like it, share it, because you never know who else might like the things that you like. Thanks to those of you who have been showing up every Wednesday throughout this first year. I know there's definitely a few names that I'm now recognizing every week in the comments, so it's so fun to get to know some of you. And if you haven't introduced yourself yet there, I'd love to hear what brought you here. If you're a music fan, if you're another creative producer on your own creative journey, it's always so fun to hear everyone's different paths and approaches to finding that inspiration and how we all pull from our influences to create our own identities. So thanks for watching, and stay tuned for another year of producer challenges and hopefully some more other content. Let me know in the comments what other things you'd be interested in seeing on this channel for year 2. All right, thanks for watching, and I'll see you later.